What's up guys, it's KOSDFF here and welcome to my 1 million subscriber Draw My Life video. I know a lot of you guys think you stepped into a time machine. No, the title's not clickbait. No, I didn't make this video 6 years ago and I'm just now publishing it. No, I made this promise back when I hit like 100k or 300k. All those years ago, back when everybody was making these videos, that I would make one when I hit 1 million subscribers. I don't know what I was thinking. I don't know if I thought I'd ever get there or anything like that. But no, I finally hit 1 million subscribers and here it is, Draw My Life. And the reason I had the idea to make this video, specifically when I hit 1 million subscribers, is I knew that when I would do that, I would want to make this really soppy video where I would thank everybody that helped me and then thank you guys for being so fucking awesome and how you guys changed my life and tell you guys that whole story. Because how I got to where I am involves a lot of people and a lot of things and a whole lot of events that had to take place to get me to exactly this point. And I figured instead of doing one of those extremely emotional videos that I would just draw it. And I'm going to try and keep this video within a reasonable time, but I have actually lived a lot of life, I feel like. When I look back from everything that's happened before this point, I see a ridiculously like daunting story. I've done a lot of shit. I've been in a lot of places, I've lived in a lot of situations, I've been a bunch of different people. As you know, you're going to see, I'm going to tell the story of basically myself growing up. And when you move around constantly, as you're about to hear, you know, you get a lot of opportunities to be kind of like a new person. Which has left me with like two things. One, a ridiculous story to tell you guys today and hopefully be able to draw with for you guys. You know, I'm not exactly sure I can talk and draw at the same time. We're about to find out. And two, I'm like a professional new guy, and that's actually come in really handy in my adult life. So I'm going to tell you guys that entire story. Thank you guys so much for 1 million subscribers. I can't tell you guys how much it means to me and what it's done for me, not only for myself but all my friends, my entire community, for the relationships that I've formed, you know, from the people that I've met to the places I've been. It's all due to you guys watching my videos and interacting with me and my friends and just allowing us to live this ridiculous life that I almost don't believe is real. Thank you guys so much. I had to say something. I'm usually more of kind of like a bro hug or a dap it out, like a silent nod, you know, a type of person where you guys know how much it means and that I'm awkward enough to not want to say it. But yeah, without further ado, this is my Draw My Life. Alright guys, get ready for some fucking stick figures. So the story begins with this big 6'6" Texan dude, aka Bush Wookie, aka my fucking dad. The only thing you really need to know about him at this point in the story is that he was from the Air Force. He went there straight out of high school and I think he got his associate's degree there. He was into accounting and eventually got into computer sciences and services and things like that. We'll go ahead and give him a little cowboy hat because he's into hunting and all that other kind of stuff that, you know, Texans are into. My early childhood is filled with camping and hunting and outdoorsy activities and things like that. And that's all due to this guy right here. And well, my southern as fuck dad also came as a package deal because he had my brother, my new homie, my little dude Sean. So these dudes are chilling in Texas. Sorry, Texas. That's you guys. Until eventually my dad came to work for my little Asian mother, who's all the way from New York, which is kind of funny because she's little tiny Asian and he's a 6'6" giant like Texan. All my cousins are like 100 pounds fucking bigger than me and could just destroy me. And it's because my tiny little New Yorker mom came to this picture in the form of my dad's boss. Now my mom is what, like a genius. I don't even know how I draw genius. Can we draw like a little lab coat or some shit like that? Or just, you know, fucking just smart. My mom's hella fucking smart. She comes from a family full of just the most ridiculously educated and intelligent people ever. And eventually she made her way from, I don't even know what fucking New York looks like that or whatever, but yeah, so eventually she made her way down to Texas to work for the same company as my dad. And just if you guys didn't know, my mom is full-blown 100% Asian, so if you can like imagine my little old grandfather or just getting all fucking pissed off because my mom moved down to Texas all the way away from him and then met this big guy that already had a kid and he didn't even have some super stellar job and wasn't a doctor or a lawyer. And so he wasn't too happy about that right in the beginning, but eventually he changed his mind because my dad is fucking awesome. So we have my huge dad, my tiny little mom, and then my brother who eventually just grew up bigger than all of us because he just has giant's blood or some shit. Are all chilling down here in Texas, and then they finally decided to, I guess, complicate things. They wanted some magic to happen right here and an immaculate conception happened and that ended up with fucking me. And I was born amongst a pretty traumatic time in life, I guess, for my parents. Right then and there, they were living in Galveston, and this massive, like, fucking hurricane hit their apartment, and they eventually told me stories of how they were keeping me in a drawer back in the broke days and things like that, because obviously they were really young. They had good jobs, but they were trying to build a family and put away and all that shit like that. And they had my brother and a whole bunch of other stuff going on. So they had this tiny little fucking shithole apartment as they were saving up money for a house, because they didn't want to get some trailer or some mid-sized house. So they actually stuck it out in the apartment for a while to save up, I'm guessing. guessing. I wasn't there yet, I'm still in the drawer. But also my dad got into a really bad motorcycle accident. So my dad was a fucking rebel and he was into motorcycles and things like that. But eventually some asshole became behind him on the fucking highway and just like bopped him off the fucking shit. So he went flying all the way over here and like really hurt his shoulder and shit like that, which made it where he couldn't play softball anymore because that's the thing that he used to really like doing all the time. But yeah, it also made it where my mom was like, okay bro, we're gonna move my mom over here. You know, give her, yeah. She was like, hell fucking no. Here's to your softball, that's gone. You fuck that, you can't do that anymore. And here's your motorcycle, you can't do that shit anymore either because I'm fucking prego down here with this little bastard named Justin and we have to fucking get him out and you need to be alive for that shit. Yeah, if you guys thought you were getting art, man, you were fucking sorely mistaken. I can do graffiti and that's just about all. But no, I was born right around Christmas, so here we'll do fucking Christmas tree. Yeah, well, yeah. We'll put some presents under there too. But yeah, I was born December 21st, right near Christmas. My parents didn't know it yet, but they are fucked. Because I am no normal kid. I am a running, fighting, shit-talking, 1,000 miles per hour, never stopping, just jumping off the walls, has something to say about everything, crazy little fucking bastard. And I made their lives hell. Actually, no, I made their lives pretty cool for probably the next 4 or 5 years, to be fair. But as soon as I got to like school and started meeting other people and started being a teenager and shit like that, as you guys are about to hear, I just turned into a crazy little bastard and got in a whole lot of trouble and all that jazz. And even though my father and my mother are extremely intelligent people, especially my mom being like genius level smart from the blood of people that get like 7 PhDs just for the shit of it because they're that smart, like hardcore Asian people, they decided, I guess they wanted to make things even more complicated. Yeah, that's my brother, we're just gonna mark him by being the giant. They decided to make things more complicated and give me someone to grow up with and experience things with and be a homie with and obviously have the experience of having a sibling and things like that, because although I had my older brother, he was 9 years older than me, and there's not a lot of things people can get along with or have in common when you're 9 years apart, at that age at least. Me and my brother are the homies now. Here, we'll give us a little dap right then. But back in the day, obviously we didn't have a whole lot in common, and my mom wanted to have 2 kids, so we had my sister as well. And me and my sister, we're a funny combination of people. So I'm more like my mother. So, well, I didn't give my mom a dress. Oops, nope, that was my mom. Oh no, Dad, you have a dress on! But yeah, I'm more like my mother, and my sister is more like my dad, which really doesn't make a difference because they're both stubborn as fuck. Basically, throughout our entire lives, our dinner conversations have always been mini roasts and joke-telling sessions where we would just try to make everybody laugh, which ended up being really handy because it's kind of what I do for a living now. Appreciate it, fam. You guys gave me a thick skin early and made it where I could roast just about anybody and keep it kind of family friendly. So what we have here in the making is just a ridiculously awesome family, which is my family, and they are fucking cool. Here's my damn big ass brother again. And my parents are very goal-driven people. They're very well thought out, planned people. So they did things, very slowly in the way they wanted to do them. So at this point, even though my mom is like super fucking genius, probably eventually, discover fucking time travel or some shit like that, my mom decided that she was gonna take off work to raise me and my sister. But my mom is also super fucking smart and has a brain the size of fucking Texas, so there's no way she's just gonna kind of sit around once we were, going to school and things like that. And eventually became a teacher so that her hours would match our hours, so when we got home from school, we wouldn't be coming home to daycare or things like that. That we'd actually have my mom there, and that right there is a sacrifice that I guess I can't really put into words. A lot of the reasons why me and my sister are the people we are. And even my brother too, even though he was, a teenager during all this and was pretty broody himself because he came from my dad. Now, a lot of it is due to my awesome, amazing mother who basically sacrificed her career to raise me and my sister. And that's not a special gift and a trait that she just singled on us. She obviously went on to teach our entire time growing up so that she could have this profound effect on young people for her entire life. And if I was to write a book about my mother, that's pretty much how I'd start it. Alright, and on the other side of the spectrum, we have my dad, who has obviously scored way out of his league with my mom. And I only say that as a joke because my dad is a super fucking human, god beast dude, hero of the century. And why is my dad a superhero, savior, god beast of the fucking world? And it's not because he was super intelligent. He's an extremely intelligent person, but he's not like god fucking level smart that my mom's side of the family that, just have, like, they should just wear capes on their brains and shit like that because they're so powerful. My dad's superhero ability was his ability to live for a family. And basically he spent you know, most of his life until just about, you know, 7 years ago nowadays, working on his career so that I've forgotten how to draw Texas, and worked fucking hella hard so that me, my sister, and my brother, and my mother never wanted for a damn thing, ever. There's not a moment in my life that we ever felt true desperation or want for just about anything. My dad worked his ass off his entire life doing a job that I don't think he was extremely fond of. Besides, you know, he was really fond of growing his career and being able to provide better for his family and things like that. But this actual job, I don't think he fucking hated that at all. Actually, it almost killed him. He even retired early, which was always the plan, because he, you know, as I say, he provided for our family. We were never a family that went on extremely lavish vacations where we'd fly over all over the world and go to these extremely fancy hotels. We never had extremely amazing cars. We never had like mansion houses and always wore like the most expensive clothing or anything like that. No, my dad provided to us at a comfortable level and saved his entire life so that he could retire early as possible. And also so that I, myself, and my brother all had our educations paid for, which cost a fuck ton of money. No, my dad spent my early years building up his career and building his expertise in a field that eventually got known as outsourcing. Now, he worked in electrical data systems, so basically anytime you use an ATM and you've got to move money from like your bank to get cash, or anytime like one company wants to send fucking financial information, you know, as a part of the service they offer to somewhere else, or how to store it and manage it and do all that stuff, that's basically what my dad did. Is he allowed companies to communicate electronically and develop all the server farms and all the technicians and all the things to make sure that runs smoothly. And that job eventually led us to North Carolina, which is where I would spend, I guess, majority of my youth or majority of my time growing up. And we moved to Charlotte, right here, like right in the middle, or I guess kind of like, you know, right in the middle of the Carolinas, because you forget there's South Carolina down here. It's kind of like the wannabe Carolina, what it's called an SC. and here is where I spent ages 8 through 12, and pretty much the only thing I really remember about this time in my life is sports. I played a lot of sports. My dad made sure I grew up playing basketball, baseball, football. We even played ice hockey and street hockey a lot. That was probably our favorite. Yeah, that's a hockey stick. We actually played that all the time because we lived on a cul-de-sac. It was actually kind of perfect. The house we moved to had all these houses, and we moved to like the perfect neighborhood where every single house had kids, and every single day we would go meet in the cul-de-sac and we would just play hockey, and, you know, just literally all day long. And when I wasn't doing that, I was obviously with school and the friends I had made at school, and all we ever did was play sports because my dad was friends with all the other dads, or I guess they kind of knew each other, and made sure that we were all on all the same sports all the time, because that was some dad ass shit where, you know, they would all make sure like, yeah, you better make sure my kid gets invited to the league, or you let me know what team you guys are going for, so we'll all put all our fucking little bastards together, and they can all like, and then we can all like hang around outside and just talk about how awesome they are like one day a fucking week or some shit. So that's exactly what I spent, like, I guess ages 8 through 12 doing, was just playing sports. Now of course my mom is still my mom, and she knows I have her fucking genius blood, or at least just a tiny little part of it. She made sure I went to math camp, so yeah, I'm one of those kids that went to fucking math camp and things like that. I was actually really good at math and really took to school really early on, so she made sure that I went to all these special programs, and it made sure that not only was I taking care of sports and things like that, but I was, you know, enriched that way too. And my mom was that type of person that made both me and my sister learn how to do a musical instrument, so I know how to play guitar and my sister plays piano. Here you go, here's my guitar. My sister learned how to play piano. So no, just, you know, a really well-rounded upbringing. My parents thought about this shit and planned this stuff out. Little did I know it, my life was actually about to change incredibly, and I almost wish I was a little bit older so that I could take, you know, more appreciation of it. But right around when I was 12, my dad would go on these business trips. And these business trips would take fucking forever, and he'd be gone for 4 or 5 months at a time because he was going to a place called Australia to basically help their Commonwealth Bank manage their data system. So back then when they were all, I guess, updating the world to the fucking tech age right around 2000, the whole world is digitalizing, and they want to make it where their ATMs and all that and the internet and all that other shit can work over in fucking Australia. So they hired my dad, being the fucking beast he is that works for a company called EDS, to come over there and do all that shit. And that basically meant that he would go to this random fucking place that we had no idea about, and he would spend 4, 5, 6 months there every single time, and it made it where we just didn't see my dad that much. And although that wasn't an extreme burden on me, I'm not gonna say that was like a negative thing. I was at the age of fucking 11 and 12, playing fucking sports all the time and hanging out with my friends. And, you know, although we missed my dad, you know, and I really missed him, when he would come back, it would be fucking awesome. But it was so long ago, and it only happened like twice, where he went on 2 business trips and he was gone for like a total of 8 months out of the year. And to be honest, not to sound callous or anything like that, but I was 12 years old and I was me, so I was getting in a shit ton of trouble for getting in fights and saying swear words and doing the wrong things in school. And my dad was very much the disciplinary, you know, because my mom's this tiny little Asian, she can't do shit. But my dad's this fucking 6'6" huge dude, so that when I would get in trouble, oh dude, he was the one that was laying the smacketh downeth on little 12-year-old Justin. But that motherfucker was all the way in Australia, and I don't know anybody that can reach that far. So when I was getting in a whole lot of trouble, I actually didn't mind it. He was like, I was like, oh okay, I'm in this trouble, I'm in the hot seat, here's my little Dunes cone or whatever. And I'm like, okay, you're in trouble here, call your dad. I'm like, okay. So the little fucking phone call goes, I don't know, fucking 7,000 miles away to Australia, and he's like, you know, son, you shouldn't fucking do that, that's bad. And he's just really excited to talk to me because he's in fucking Australia, and I'm not obviously getting in much trouble, so I'm like, yeah, alright, screw it. My dad, being my dad, who's not gonna get pushed around by fucking anybody, told his company that, hey man, I know I'm really excited about this job, and, you know, it's pretty awesome, and Australia's fucking awesome, but there's just no way I'm gonna continue to do it unless you send my family over here with me. And that's exactly what happened. So my dad came home one day and said, hey guys, what would you guys think about moving to Australia? Which, you know, we were kind of like 12 years old, so we didn't fucking have any idea. So we're just like, oh, cool, sounds kind of neat. You know, and then he showed us this movie. My dad had this amazing idea of showing us this movie that he got at Blockbuster that was filmed by, I guess, National Geographic about Australia. And the entire video was about Aborigines who live out here in the middle of the damn desert, in these little huts going to school. Like, and because the damn movie was about the outback, and me and my sister were like, you gotta be fucking kidding me, right? We were literally asking people at the gate when we were boarding our Qantas flight, which was this massive fucking airplane. We were asking them if they had things like pools, and whether they had microwaves and things like that, because literally the only impression we had of this place, and my dad must have thought this was fucking hilarious. He must have been dying. He must have thought this was just the funniest thing ever. We thought it was a bunch of fucking huts and Aboriginal people, and didgeridoos and goddamn kangaroos and shit like that. We had no idea it was just like another city, and we were that ignorant because we were 12 years old. We had no idea. So begins my teenage life. I lived here from 12 to 16, so this is, you know, a pretty important part of growing up as a teenager. I was blessed and fortunate enough to spend my entire pretty much teenage years, or, you know, probably the funnest of the teenage years, in Sydney, Australia, which I will still to this day say is probably the coolest place on the fucking earth. If I ever had to choose a place to live that wasn't, you know, in America, or if I ever wanted to move somewhere else, I would definitely move to, man, it's a damn good depiction of Sydney. That's like the best drawing I've done yet. But yeah, so I spent my, you know, teenage years growing up in Sydney, which was fucking absolutely amazing. And we did all kinds of cool things. So I went to a school named Skeggs Reglands, which stood for Sydney Coeducational Catholic Grammar School. I had to fucking think about it for a second. And the only reason why I went to this school is because my dad's badass company that had brought us over here paid for absolutely everything because my mom couldn't work, obviously being an expatriate. So if you want to know that kind of visa and immigration laws, it's an expatriate visa or whatever. So basically we had 4 years to go over there, and we basically couldn't do a lot of things. So my dad's company paid for school over there because although they have a public school system, it's largely private. It's not like America where everyone goes to public schools for high school, or at least the far majority. A lot of people go to private schools over there. And they also paid for our cars, our, you know, clothes, food, you know, our entertainment, absolutely everything, so that my dad could be set up like a beast and do his job, because he was out here doing massive fucking work for the Commonwealth Bank, which is like their huge bank. I guess it's like their Bank of America or whatever. Basically kicking ass and taking names, and it was fucking awesome. And I had pretty much the time of my life over there. I don't know how to explain it, but it's just a little different overseas. You know, everyone says that, and you go on vacation and you're like, yeah, you know, France, pretty different, or Brazil, pretty different. You don't really know until you live there. And I guess the one thing I can kind of start off this story by saying is that the kids over in Australia and in the UK and in Europe and things like that, they just grow up quicker. One thing is their drinking age is like 18, so they you know, they start going to clubs and start acting like adults just a lot earlier than, you know, Americans. I would guess here in America, a person doesn't really become an adult, like from a kid to an adult. So probably they're about 25 years old. And then things like that because of school and just how robust our economy is and how, you know, just how well everything's doing here. You can't even see that. And, you know, I just don't think that, I'm not sure a whole lot of people would agree with that, but you know, 25 years old is right when I would call someone an adult. But over in Australia and in European-based nations, I guess, that age is actually closer to around 17. It's actually lower than the drinking age. It's right around there. And what do I mean by that? Like, normally 17, what do you think you're doing? High school parties at your friend's house, maybe playing beer pong, you know, in your backyard, doing simple fucking American teenager shit. Well, no. In Australia, when I hit, you know, 14 through 16, 14 was like the magic age where you could start getting into underage clubs. I remember when I was 15 years old, we were putting on dress shirts and dress shoes and going to basically underage nightclubs. Now, you couldn't buy alcohol at these things, but it was a full-on dance club, and you could basically just go hang out with your friends. And it wasn't like a roller derby skate rink or anything like that. And it wasn't like a caution kids at play where there's like an arcade or little kid things to do. No, these were actually full-on nightclubs that one day of the week would turn into an underage club and only let in people between the ages of like 14 and 21 or some shit like that. So I take that back, actually. There was alcohol served, but they would X your hands and you couldn't actually get alcohol. But the reason why I'm telling you this is because you just grew up a lot quicker. And I didn't really even realize this until eventually we came back to America and I jumped back on my yellow school bus and went and hung out with people, and we'd go play video games at their house. And I realized that, you know, I just like digressed like 10 years in the kind of things we did. Because when I was in Australia, all we did was get ready to go out to nightclubs and go to dance parties and different things like that. And we would run around the city. Like when we would skip school, we'd go hang out at beaches and we could get around the entire city. There was no yellow school buses over in Australia. We had like bus passes that just let us take public transportation anywhere. We could go to famous beaches or, you know, amazing places in Sydney. The whole world was at our fingertips. We could go absolutely anywhere. Freedom obviously got me into a lot of trouble because I was this innocent little sport playing little American tyke that never knew anything wrong or never did anything wrong, and then I got thrown into this world of dance clubs and inner city kids and doing all that stuff, and that's eventually where I picked up graffiti. So if you guys know from like all my stuff, like the Instagram stuff and some of my vlogs where I do graffiti, I can actually do this because over in Australia what we do, like it's kind of like a pastime, is we would sneak out really late at night when our parents were like well in bed, and we would run around and tag up the place, steal a whole bunch of fucking like spray cans, and our favorite thing was Krylon back then. I'm not even sure if that's a popular brand anymore. And we would basically steal paint cans from hardware stores and just run around the city and just spray our little tags everywhere. And eventually got to the point where we were sneaking into train yards and finding abandoned buildings and doing like full-blown pieces, which is like when you do like the 3D art. And they would like take actual hours to do so with the rush of sitting there and having to break the law, I guess, while trying to rush this like art piece that you want to do and then take pictures of it on our shitty little fucking disposable cameras with flashes, because there was no smartphones back there. This was the kind of shit that we would do. Of course, it would be a lot more elaborate than I'm just kind of showing you how we do 3D shapes. And we do that all over the place, and that's pretty much how I spent, you know, I guess the ages 13 to probably 15. It was right around then when I discovered pretty much video games. Like, we'd always have video game systems like growing up. You know, I had a PS1, I had a Sega Genesis, I had a SNES, and I had the Nintendo before that. And we would play Super Mario, Tony Hawk 1, Road Rash, and Batman, and all those other random games. And eventually we had the N64 as well, and we would play Super Mario. That actually came out you know, right around when I moved to Australia. So this was a huge game. We'd play Mario all the time at friends' houses and things like that. So basically I discovered video games, and one of the things that I discovered through video games, because these are all consoles obviously I'm talking about, is I started to hang out with a lot of Asian kids at my school because they were into a game called StarCraft. Now, I really liked StarCraft, but I fucking hated the campaign. The only thing I really liked was the fucking multiplayer. And what basically I found out after hanging out with these kids and talking, you know, with them about StarCraft and Counter-Strike, because that's what they really like to play, I found out that every day after school they went to an internet cafe and played it until like the late hours of the night. Back then, they didn't really have the internet totally set up, or at least, you know, everybody didn't have high-speed internet in their houses, and even more unlikely, they probably didn't have a computer either. So we would go to these internet cafes where it's just basically these massive rooms full of tables, and they just have a shit ton of computers, and they were all LAN together with Ethernet cables so that we could all play these multiplayer games together. And we would sit there and buy basically time. So I think it was like $5 to get you an hour. And we would buy like passes to get like fucking 20 hours, like 4 or 5 hours, so like $15. And we would sit here and play Counter-Strike and StarCraft like literally all night long and all day long. It was the nerdiest thing in the fucking world. So if you guys didn't think that we've been playing these games for forever, no, I was actually one of those kids that was back there playing just Counter-Strike, playing on D-Dust, running around fucking shooting people and throwing flashbangs like on the old school maps, and the most ridiculous like fucking total box monitor computers that look like spaceships nowadays. Now this is awesome. This was actually a really fun time, and I got to make really good friends with all these Korean guys and basically all these Asian people. Now there was a few Chinese people, but they were mostly Korean, Japanese, and Vietnamese. And we spent the better part of like a year and 2 summers just bouncing around between these 2 little cities that had these internet cafes, being Chatswood, which was like right down the street from my house, which was perfect. And then we'd also go into Sydney down near Central, and there was some really big internet cafes down there. And we would just kind of go back and forth between the 2 of them to, play video games. Now this eventually led to some dramatic stuff, because little did I know, these little homies were all a part of a fucking gang. They were part of a gang called Singhua, and it was basically just a group of homies that used to run around stealing cell phones. But they actually had quite an elaborate structure, as they all reported to a Die Low, and he reported to a Dragon Head and all this other shit, and they had all these numbers associated with what level they were in the gang. So once finding this out, obviously being friends with them all, this extremely Asian gang who don't really take to Westerners very much at all for very obvious reasons, decided to let little old me in. So now I'm fucking super badass Asian gangster running around the city, which is really just us stealing cell phones and playing in internet cafes and shit like that. This eventually got me into a lot of trouble because I brought some of my friends from the rich-ass school that my dad's company had sent me to. If you guys remember a second ago, it was called Skeggs Reglan. Super elite fucking private school. Rich fucking people. I went to a couple of these guys' houses, like, for parties and to go hang out after school. And they had houses that, like, you don't even see on MTV Cribs because those people are poor compared to these motherfuckers. This is ridiculous. I'm talking houses that was like, they were more like castles. They weren't houses. They were like 7 houses put together. But anyways, I eventually decided to bring some of these guys to Chatswood to introduce them to my friends that I've been hanging out with on the weekend at these internet cafes and playing StarCraft and Counter-Strike. Well, while I brought these little rich yuppies around my like Asian gangster friends, well, I guess one of them decided it'd be a really funny idea to rob one of those bastards for nothing else but his cell phone. Well, of course, like I said, these are super powerful rich people, and well, they didn't much take to their little baby being robbed by these gangsters by some American little prick that didn't know any better. So eventually I got fucking kicked out of that school. Now a lot of what I'm going to kind of cover, I've gone into a lot more detail in story videos and things like that, and you'll hear there was more than one reason I got kicked out of Skeggs, or asked to leave Skeggs. So that's what kind of a yuppie school it was. They wouldn't even kick you out, they just ask you to leave and give you that look like you better leave. And they're super powerful and rich, so you fucking do it. So eventually I went to an American international school, which is actually really cool because it got me back on the year-round or non-year-round school curriculum, because if you guys didn't know, Australia has year-round schools, so their break is at the end of like Christmas or whatever instead of summer. Here it is in America. So I spent the last year there kind of like reforming, and I obviously stopped hanging out with all my gangster friends, and they were all bastards, and I didn't really like them anymore anyways. And then I left my other school too, so I didn't even have any friends from Skeggs anymore, which was kind of normal for me because I moved around so much. We had moved from Texas to North Carolina, and then we had moved to Australia all before I was the age of 12. So being the professional new kid, no problem. I made friends in the American International School, and it was dope. And this was actually a really good time in life because this is when me and my parents started discovering a lot of stuff to do in Australia, because I had gotten through kind of like my kid stage, and my parents had gotten through like them getting used to Australia, that we started just kind of like look for things to do in Australia. I remember this time really just doing a lot of stuff with my family. We did a lot of like weekend adventures, and during the week we would go to all these really cool places all around Sydney. One of the things we did was scuba diving. So me and my mom and my dad, my sister didn't like it so she didn't go, but me and my mom and my dad would go scuba diving like everywhere. We even went and got our advanced open water certifications. I think my parents even went as high as rescue diver. They've been on something like 300 fucking dives. I think I've done like 60 or 70 dives over the years we were in Australia. But no, for this part, we did a lot of things. We went around to Darling Harbour a lot. We went to the big IMAX theater a lot. We went to Paddy's Market a lot. We'd always go eat eat at this like dim sum place across the street, which to this day still has the best dim sum ever. If you guys, I don't remember what it's called, but it's across the street from Patty's Market. If you go Google Patty's Market, you'll find out where that is, and you can find out where this place is. I just can't remember exactly what it is right now. But yeah, that was pretty much the rest of my time in Australia, and I stopped hanging out with my graffiti friends too. They were kind of a part of that, so I didn't really know any of them either. And one of them was Canadian and also worked for, I think, IBM or something, so he moved away and I stopped hanging out with him as well. So I like lost touch with this completely, stopped playing video games, and really just started hanging out with my family. I turned 16 and it was time to come back to the greatest country in the fucking world, being America. Fucking excited to come back. Can't forget about Alaska and little Hawaii over here. We were really excited to come back to America, not because Australia wasn't amazing, because it was, and it's the only other place I would ever live, ever. There is just something about the good old USA that just speaks fucking awesome, and we could not wait to come back. For the littlest tiny things that like you find are trivial, the things you tend to miss and not even really want, but it's just awesome that they're there, and then it makes you proud to be a part of a place that like just has so much, I guess, crap available for you. Like little things, like in Australia we get the premium TV cable package and it'd have 51 channels and 39 of them would just be US channels. Where in America, you come back and you get the premium cable package, you get 1,000 fucking channels, and HBO has fucking 12 channels and all this other random stuff, and you can buy all the crap food you want, and it's all available and all hella cheap, and everything's extremely cheap, even though Australian dollar wasn't really worth much to the American dollar back then. Things like CDs and clothing that you would want because they were from all the way in America would cost way more in Australia, because obviously they gotta import it all the way down to that tiny little island. Actually, it's the same size. I think Australia and America are the exact same size. But no, we were really excited to come back to America, and it was right then, you know, when I got onto the yellow school bus, and then, you know, rode my little happy ass to school and met the kids there, that I realized when I moved back here from Australia that I went from being, you know, 16-year-old graffitiing, running around the city, living basically like a young adult's life, going to clubs, dressing nice, and doing all that kind of really grown-up stuff. I came back over to America, where I had this big yellow school bus. And when you went to school, all the teachers treated you like a little child, because that's just how they have to do it over here in America. In Australia, a lot of adults, almost all the adults, once you hit about 16, 17, they start treating you like an adult so that you will eventually start acting like one. It's kind of the way they do things over there. So no, I came back over here and I was a little kid again. I had to get rides from my mom to go visit my girlfriend and stuff like that, even though she only lived like 2 neighborhoods over, little things like that. And we moved back into the same house in North Carolina that we had just been renting out the whole entire time. So we got to move back into my old neighborhood, back in that same cul-de-sac with all the houses, with all the kids that we used to play hockey and do all the things with. But now, obviously, we're moving back and we're all in high school now, so we're not running around doing all that stuff. Still got to link up with all the old homies and, you know, got to go back to school with this great story. A whole bunch of kids are like, man, I thought you died. Like, where have you been for the last 5 years? Like, man, I remember you were here, and like we had this class together, and in PE we would do this, but we had no idea what happened to you. You just all of a sudden just disappeared one day and never came back to school, and that was it. Because I did leave in like the middle of the school year. It wasn't even in summer or anything like that. I think it was like in the middle of May. Just one day I just didn't come to school, and I was a shy kid, so when I knew I was moving to Australia, I didn't go tell everybody. I was just like, fucking peace, see you in a couple years. But no, my high school years were kind of lame, you know, from then on. So I basically did 10th grade through 12th grade at a school called Hopewell High School in Huntersville, North Carolina. No one I know still lives there anymore, so I can say that. My parents and everyone's moved out of that shithole. It's not a shithole, actually. It's a really nice area. I just, you know, I didn't really take to it too much. I didn't really like it there very much. And I got into a fair amount of trouble. All that's kind of like detailed in my story vids. Had a couple run-in with the cops. Made some really great friends. Made some not so great friends. And pretty much just kind of did the American teenager thing. And, you know, that was pretty much it. Didn't get into anything too serious. Didn't get any, like, real trouble. And really didn't even get into video games either. It really just turned into hanging out with our friends and skateboarding and doing random stuff. But yep, after high school, like my parents had always told me, I was definitely going to college, so I moved from Charlotte to a place called Greensboro. They called it UNCG. I did not do very well at this school. It turns out I was not really ready to make the jump from high school to college, as in I was not mature enough. Being somewhat intelligent and being able to pretty much skate through high school doing nothing and still being able to pull off like B's and A's and shit like that made it where I developed absolutely no study habits whatsoever. That did not translate so well to college, so the very first year of school all I did was party. I hardly went to class. I thought I could just skate through on the test like I had always done. No, this didn't work, and I pretty much just failed out. I got put on academic probation. My parents saw how badly I was doing, knew that, you know, I was decently intelligent, so that if I was getting those kinds of grades, it meant that I wasn't even going or even trying. And they yanked me out of that school fast as fuck and said, hey man, you need to go get a job or go to community college and bring your grades up. You need to do something or we're gonna give you the fucking boot. And I knew they'd do it because they did it to my brother. So I wanted to avoid this thing right here, and I ended up going to a school called, what is it, damn it? Damn, I almost forgot what it was. A CPCC. And I went there with my homie Johnny that I met from high school, and we were the kind of the duo. We would go to class, we would study, and just kind of like hang out. And it made it where my time here at CPC, with all the effort that me and my friend Johnny would put in, eventually made it where I made like straight A's pretty much, and rose my GPA, which was like fucking non-existent pretty much because I completely failed up, to the exact minimum that they needed to let me into another school, which was I think a 2.0. You had to like have a B- average, which allowed me to get into another school called UNCC, which was an actual like 4-year college university. And it's in UNCC I kind of discovered my fondness for school. I actually loved school. And not because I was entertained by it. Besides the history classes, for the most part, school is boring as shit. And really just a bunch of useless crap that you read in textbooks. No, I found a fondness for school and the ability of solving puzzles. So, and the puzzle was how to get good grades. So I would basically go to these bullshit ass classes, read their stupid textbooks, and then memorize it and regurgitate it on tests. And when I would get good grades, I felt extremely accomplished for like the first time ever. I had figured out how to work hard for something and get results out of it and feel great about it. So I actually ended up doing really well in school. Sorry, you guys can't even see it. You kind of. I actually ended up doing really well in school, something that I never thought I would be good at, because I never did tremendous in high school because I just didn't really give a fuck. And I was able to just skate by, so I never had to try very hard. But no, doing well at school was something that I was really fond of, and throughout those years I had a whole lot of fun. It's not to say all I did was study at UNCC. We had a ridiculous amount of fun. They had frats and frat parties and a whole party scene around the school, and it was largely a commuter school, so we went down to the city a lot and went to all these clubs and all this random shit. We had a lot of fun in college. So much fun that when it came to graduating, so I graduated in 5 years. Like I said, I failed out my first year at UNCG, so it took me 5 years to graduate college. That when I saw that light at the end of the tunnel of, hey man, guess what? College is fucking over, bro. You've got to go get a goddamn job so you can make money and pay your own way. I don't know when that went blurry, but yeah, here's my tunnel, here's the money sign, here's college being fucking over. And to be honest, this kind of scared me. I was one of those kids, just like when it was time to go to college, I wasn't really ready to go out there and start earning money and have that be what I was doing. I didn't feel like I was set up enough to do what I wanted to do, because although I went and got my degree, my bachelor's degree in accounting, so that's what I ended up doing at that school. Although I really liked this, and obviously I had my degree, so I could go off and find kind of a decent job, I wasn't ready to do this. This was boring, not challenging whatsoever. It was just annoyingly stupid, but the knowledge that it came with getting this degree is what I really wanted. Wasn't not actually doing the job of an accountant. I wanted to know what an accountant knew, and that's how a company works. That's how you break down a multi-million-dollar corporations to dollar and cents, how you track the point of sale all the way to what it costs from overhead and all the millions of transactions you had to do to make the product to sell or the service and all that shit. That's all explained best in accounting, because when it really comes down to it, money is how a company works. So I was armed with that, and I was extremely excited to have that degree. I was really excited. My parents were all super proud of me. I had a college degree. I loved school, and I wasn't ready to go join the real world and make money and be a responsible adult. So I decided I wanted to go to school, and it was either, back then, you could either go get a master's degree, or you could get a law degree, or you could go get a medical degree. Now, I wasn't really down with, I don't even know how to draw the medical symbol. And then I guess the law degree is this little thing, and shit, I don't even know how you draw a master's degree. I'll just call you draw a little muscle, whatever. So those are pretty much your three options after school. I didn't want to do the medical thing because fucking gross. Who the fuck wants to do that? And those guys are all crooks anyways. And from learning all this stuff about business, I found out insurance companies are the worst people ever, and that's pretty much what the medical industry is, despite the whole saving lives thing. Master's degree, cool, just not for me. only was a year. I wanted to go earn something huge so that when it came time to joining the real world, I'd be armed with the best fucking armor ever to get a good job and be totally beast and have the most dope fucking gun ever to like blast my way through life. I figured the best way to do that was a law degree, and I didn't really want to become a lawyer. I never did. You can even see in videos I made when I was in law school. Like I was, when I started doing YouTube as a hobby, I never wanted to become a courtroom attorney. I never wanted to be a lawyer. I never wanted to have clients. A lot of the same reason I got my accounting degree, so that I knew how business could work, not because I wanted to be accounting, CPA or whatever. I did the same thing for the law degree. I wanted to know how the fucking world worked, and not necessarily wanted to be a lawyer, because being a lawyer is cool and all, and they, a lot of them make a lot of money. But those fuckers work 16 hours a day behind a desk listening to problems and looking up fucking laws and writing opinions and consulting judges to figure out what they would do and talking to law clerks and trying to find new laws and lobbying. There's a billion things you can do with a law degree. Most people don't know that even if you look at the bar results, that around 30% of people with law degrees end up becoming lawyers, and that's only the ones that pass the bar. So not even all of those guys end up becoming lawyers in the sense that you guys think they are. So somewhere around maybe 10 to 20% of people that graduate law school end up being lawyers. The rest of them do a million other things. Like almost every single person, or at least the far majority of people on any board of directors for any Fortune 500 company have law degrees. But now, after 3 years of studying, I finally got my little law degree, and I actually graduated in the top 20% of my class, something I'm infinitely proud of. And instead of taking the bar in Oklahoma, I decided to go back to North Carolina and take the bar exam there, because that's where I wanted to practice. Although I went to law school in Oklahoma and learned all Oklahoma laws, I figured that, the overall message was received, and I could go over here and just take the bar in North Carolina. This did not go so well, and I actually failed it on my first take, which is actually pretty normal. Only like 30% of people actually pass their bar exams in their first go. And switching states made it pretty difficult, so I kind of gave myself kind of like a pat on the back for, at least getting there and trying. Wasn't exactly extremely distraught that I didn't pass the bar exam. It was like I said, I'd always, never really planned on being a lawyer, but I wanted to get the degree nonetheless. And also while I'm living at my parents' house and delivering pizza while I'm studying for the bar, because, my parents are very stern. You're not going to live off them and just do nothing, so I had to deliver pizza right after law school, which is an incredibly humbling experience. And it's actually one of the things I credit to who I am today, because it was, it was a little different, having a doctorate degree and delivering pizza while you're discovering while you're studying for the bar exam. It made it a little difficult, and it wasn't something that the rest of my friends were doing. A lot of them, stayed at home and kind of had the help of their parents while they were studying for the bar exam, because they knew school kind of really wasn't over. But no, this actually ended up being extremely difficult, and even with the help of those bar prep classes, I never ended up actually passing the bar exam. But that actually wasn't so bad, because whilst I was, studying for the bar, and actually while I was, finishing up law school, I discovered a site called YouTube. And right before I kind of discovered this site, I had discovered a video game called Call of Duty, which I had never really played before, that my roommate in law school introduced me to, because when we weren't studying, we would go play zombies. Now, I don't know how to draw a zombie. Fuck that. So we would go play zombies, and we'd play it all damn night, and it was actually a whole lot of fun, till eventually we made our way over to multiplayer, and I bought a console, and we basically play online, and we made a bunch of friends on there, and we made a clan. One of them eventually pointed out that we had a couple really good clips that we should make a video about it, and then stick it onto YouTube, and hope that a company called Machinima would see it and put it on their channel, and then we could become wicked YouTube famous, and then we could just play video games and do all that shit. And we thought this was really funny, and I didn't really think that much of it. But if I forgot to mention earlier, I had originally went to UNCG, which was a school that had an extremely amazing arts program, because I wanted to become a movie director. I was actually really into the idea of filming movies and directing. I'm a huge movie buff. All I do really, is watch movies in my spare time when I have like nothing to do. The thing I always go to is I really like to watch movies, and I like to go to movies because movies are fucking awesome. But obviously that wasn't a realistic dream, because I didn't do very well at that school. I didn't really like the classes, and eventually became an accountant. But what I did find was making my little montages of the kills we would get on Call of Duty and making them into movies and uploading it into YouTube ended up being like my favorite fucking thing to do ever. It was like the best hobby in the world. Now, I was extremely responsible about this hobby. A lot of the times when I see YouTubers say they quit their jobs or they quit whatever they're doing to pursue a YouTube career, hopefully they'll see this video and maybe think about it twice. wise. Even though I really loved YouTube, I still took the time to finish law school, attempt to pass the bar, and eventually got my first job. So don't worry, I didn't deliver pizza fucking forever. Once I realized the legal career wasn't something that I really wanted to do anyways, and that wasting time, you know, sitting for the bar, which takes 6 months every single time you take the test, and like fucking $3,000. It's not fucking cheap. And money is not something that I had a lot of back then, obviously, because I'm delivering motherfucking pizza. So it made it where I didn't really want to sit for the bar exam again, didn't really want to do that. So instead, I turned my talents, being my law school education, and my, you know, obviously large understanding of accounting and the way finances work and things like that, and I applied them to YouTube, and basically started what I would loosely call an agency or a talent agency, where I would reach out to YouTubers, saying that I could improve their brand by helping them read contracts, making them 3D intros, doing design work for them, setting them up with t-shirt accounts and sponsors and things like that so they could make more money off their YouTube brand. And how I was able to do this was largely built off all the connections I made, because I met one YouTuber and his name was Jimmy, or Chaos X Silencer. And Jimmy worked for a company called Youch, I think that's what it was. And they basically partnered small gaming YouTubers and things like that. So I basically met him and offered to work with him over a variety of projects. And during this time, I worked with a lot of larger YouTubers and did a lot of things for free, and did a lot of networking just so I could meet people. And one of the things I did was offer all these kinds of services and tell them that I could do all this kind of stuff for them. And one of the things I could do was make 3D intros. During that time, I spent making my little Call of Duty movies and my little edits. I learned how to make 3D videos and use all these editing programs and got really good at making like 3D little ads, basically. So what turned in from making 3D intros for YouTubers, which you guys can probably still go find on some channels, and I often did these for free just so I could meet the larger YouTubers and, you know, obviously network with them a little bit, and I ended up being friends with a few of them. This eventually netted me my first job at a company called SCUF Gaming. Now you guys might have heard of them. They make this, and they make other controllers just like it for PS4 and Xbox One that have their innovative paddle technology and all the other really cool stuff they did. Now what's really important is right around this time is Jimmy, or Chaos X Silencer, hit me up in a Skype call and said he wanted to start a gaming team that would do pretty much everything, that would have all these different kind of like divisions, and we'd hit all the different Call of Duty communities. We have a sniping division, a knifing division, a war beast division, an editing division, a design division, and all this stuff, and that he needed help running it. Now at this time, I'm doing all that other shit that I just drew, so I actually told him I couldn't run it for him, that I could work on it, but I couldn't work, you know, take care of the whole damn thing. And eventually we talked to another guy named Nemo. So we have me, Jimmy, and another homie named Nemo. And what we did in a Skype call that only lasted probably about an hour, is we brainstormed on what eventually became Team Kaliber. Now at this point, I think Nemo had 2K subscribers on YouTube. I think I had 10K, and Jimmy, I don't even remember. I think he had like 300K. I wouldn't even say, it was somewhere around there. So we had humble beginnings. I was a complete YouTube random at this point. I had kind of given up the idea of becoming a professional YouTuber and moved to kind of like a behind the scenes type of deal. I continued to make videos and upload daily this entire time, but they were just like Let's Plays and Minecraft videos and crap. And it wasn't until we decided to make this brand that I eventually switched over to making Call of Duty videos. And that's where I found out that my YouTube career would blossom. So during this like perfect storm of stuff that happened after me having to deliver pizza for like a year and a half after finishing law school, which was a very dark and abysmal time for me, because, you know, obviously I had just graduated and life wasn't exactly panning out 100% how I thought. We ended up starting a brand called Team Kaliber, which introduced me to all our sponsors, because slowly by slowly I ended up running more and more of the team as Jimmy got busier and Nemo found other things to do. More and more Team Kaliber kind of became my thing as I started taking over running the sniping division, the editing division, because originally I was only running the editing division, but eventually I took over basically the content production side, and eventually through having to make all the content, I had to meet all the sponsors, which meant I had to work with the pro team so that I could keep the sponsors happy, and basically made this whole thing where I ended up meeting all the pro players, all the sponsors, and all that stuff, which really helped because I was over here trying to make these YouTubers into things running my little agency, and I had all these brand new connections to use to help grow other YouTubers that I was obviously charging a small fee to be their agent. And through all these connections I eventually made and all the work I put in on YouTube and growing TK and offering all these services and doing all this networking, eventually I came to the attention of a company called SCUF Gaming that said, hey, here's a really highly educated, young, intelligent guy that knows fucking everybody, that obviously gets it, that's in esports, that knows all the sponsors. Let's just hire him and eventually we'll find out what job he could do. He's going to be a good investment. Well, that's at least what they told me. And that was really all because of a guy named Scotty who was on Team Kaliber. You guys might know him as Redneck TK. He's the one who helped us find our pro players and really helped a lot with TK in the early days. He also gave me my first job. He is my other YouTube dad other than Jimmy or Chaos 6 Sound, so we'll put him down here. He's my other dad. And they really helped me create this entire board right here. This is how my YouTube career started. This is how I got from 10,000 subscribers to 1 million. Obviously, I'm just drawing over stuff. This is the worst draw in my life, but you kind of get the point. So it was at this point in my life where I really discovered who I was, what I wanted to do, what I was capable of, and how much work it would take to get it done. Because I was working at SCUF Gaming, and this was a full-time job. I was working 8 hours a day there, but because they loved me, it was closer to 7. And I was helping with social media, helping with their marketing, doing 3D ads for them, doing everything I'd kind of done in my agency, which, by the way, during this time of, quitting there and kind of working here, I sold my agency to the partners I had developed. That's all under NDA, so I can't really say anything, but my client list of services, all the contracts that I had done and all that stuff eventually got sold to an undisclosed YouTube network. And that's kind of how I seeded my move to Atlanta to go work for SCUF Gaming. I didn't have a whole lot of money and I had to move, go buy furniture, I had to go buy insurance, I had to do all this shit so that I could go be an adult and work at a company in an office. And the money I got from selling my agency is kind of how I got here. So I'm working 8 hours a day here. And then as soon as I got done from that job, I would go home and I would go on Call of Duty and film a KONTROL video, edit and upload and get it up around 10 o'clock at night. So no, I've been uploading at 10 o'clock at night for forever, like literally my entire YouTube career. So this would take me anywhere between from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. to get a video up, and I did that every single day. And in between all this time, so I'm just gonna kind of do this, I was also developing and running and managing and doing pretty much everything I was doing before at my agency for a brand called Team Kaliber, and all of its directors, pro players, managers, leaders, and whatever the hell have you over there. So this was my life. And for a good part, I was probably sleeping from about 4 a.m. to about 8 a.m. and getting up and restarting this. And I did this for a whole entire year out of a tiny little apartment here in Atlanta that we still drive by every now and then. And it was this was the defining point in my life when I realized how much work it would take to be what I wanted to be. And then just kind of blindly went into it, just knowing that I would somehow get through it and eventually it would go all somewhere. And this video in a large part is a celebration of that alone. So thank you guys so much for enduring my shitty upload schedules, my random everything. I know I'm not like a normal YouTuber that does everything on a perfect schedule, and throughout my whole entire YouTube career I've been so sporadic. Well, there was good reason. Alright, so at this point something kinda had to give, because between TK, my YouTube, and SCUF Gaming, I had no time to do anything. By the way, also I'm traveling around for TK for all these events, while the people who love me at SCUF gave me time off to go do all that because they're just the most amazing people ever. So eventually, something kind of had to give, and I made a very responsible decision after doing all this stuff for so long that I was eventually going to give up on my working career to go do YouTube full time. This was not a decision I took lightly, and obviously did part time for a really, really long time. And the only reason why I quit all this other stuff to solely focus on YouTube and TK was because the money I was making from YouTube versus the money I was making at SCUF and everything else I was doing kind of on the side was starting to take over drastically. So it forced my decision to kind of give up on SCUF Gaming, and they were amazingly gracious about letting me go. They told me I'd always have a job there if I ever wanted. Obviously they still sponsor TK. They're still some of my greatest friends. I obviously moved back to Atlanta in part to have, somewhat to be closer to the old school homies and things like that. If you ever come to an event and go look at that hotel bar, you'll see me and Duncan hanging out because he is one of my best friends. But no, that eventually led to me quitting SCUF Gaming and being here in Atlanta and only having YouTube and TK to look after. And my dream, the idea that I always had and always wanted to do was to meld these two things, was to combine esports and content and provide a well-rounded kind of like experience for anybody that would kind of follow my group of friends. And the best way I thought to do that was to stick us into a team house, and that would become known as the first TK house. Now, it's called the TK House. You notice there's no sponsor inserted here because this house, believe it or not, was fully paid for by me. And only in part. So TK had some sponsorships, obviously. TK had sponsorships. So they were paying a part of the bill. But a large part of the bill was kind of footed by me and my YouTube career. But, you know, we had sponsors that obviously paid for our players' travel, their hotel, their salaries, a salary for a manager to help me run TK, and all the other things. So this became a full-blown corporation that had its own arms and its own thing and became like pretty much a full-time job on itself. But like I said, I had this dream of not just having an esports organization, but having a gaming entertainment community. And this right here was the best way I sought to do it. So for a year, I spent moving all my friends into this large house that I had rented in Atlanta, which is oddly enough only about a mile or two away from where we are right now. And I moved everybody in there, and that was, at the time, that was the pro team, and that was it. There was no directors, it was just the pro team. But as careers blossomed and things changed, one of these guys retired. You guys know him as Sharp, the duo who actually helped me do a lot of those Call of Duty videos in the early days that helped my COD trolling channel kind of blow up. Because during all this time, I'm still uploading COD trolling videos and being retarded and playing with the pro players and doing all this stuff to make my videos. Then eventually we made friends with other YouTubers. You guys might remember them. They were called the Goon Squad. And we spent like the better part of like a year or whatever making all these fucking funny ass videos. We did a lot of like GTA videos, around a lot of random game videos, a lot of funny moments videos, and we did all this kind of shit until eventually I was like, you know what? I bet we could add these other YouTubers that are great at making YouTube content and have become really great friends with not only myself, who kind of like running this whole fucking parade, but also our pro players, because we all just hung out in this team speak and just spent all our spare time together. And it was right around this point where a company called GFuel, who was already had been sponsoring us since the very beginning pretty much. It always was a large supporter of TK, and we'll be forever grateful for them supporting us back when we were nothing and complete randoms pretty much. And it's had a really lucky guess on a really talented group of kids that ended up being one of the top Call of Duty teams in the world. They saw what they saw in another team they created or helped create was a team called FaZe, and they found out really early that if they could stick all these guys in a team house, not only would it help their company, but it would help blow those guys into mega stardom. And that's how they kind of approached it. They hit us up and they traveled down to Atlanta to come visit us, and they're like, all right, well, what we want to do is we see you guys have a team house here, and you have Justin kind of managing everything, and you guys seem to work together really well and could do all this stuff. We sponsor this other team called FaZe, and they've done really well with their team house and things like that. We're going to do the exact same thing for you guys because we think the same thing will happen. So right then, just at the spur of the moment, pretty much after this one random visit, them coming down to Atlanta, which they came down to do to hang out with us and film videos, you know, pretty often, so semi-regularly, they decided that they were going to fly us up to New York and put us in a house called the TKGFuelHouse. So me and the rest of the pro players are obviously really fucking stoked about this because we're gonna get to move up to New York and get a bigger house and have all these cool things like a pool and all this other crazy shit that Cliff, the owner of GFuel, described to us, by the way, who is my third dad in this story. Yes, I have 3 of them in addition to my actual dad. By the way, I kind of left off with the rest of my family. Now, my dad eventually retired at the age he wanted to because his job was killing him and he was miserable at that, so he eventually retired really early and bought this property out in the middle of the fucking woods where the nearest neighbor's like forever away and he can shoot guns and do whatever the fuck he wants, and he grew a beard, bought himself a motorcycle because his kids are grown, got a whole bunch of tattoos, and got to be the young hip guy he always wanted to be, but he decided to be a family man for a while because he's a fucking hero. And then he's just been going crazy that whole time up there in the mountains being awesome. And my mom's still up there with him. I'm extremely lucky that my parents actually stayed together. I think out of all my friends that I've ever had, maybe 4 of them, their parents stuck together. With the other like 1,000 people I know with their parents being divorced. I was extremely lucky. So my parents are just up there in the mountains of North Carolina being fucking awesome, doing whatever the hell they want. But yeah, back to our little story over here. So me and the rest of our pro players moved up to New York in this amazing house and started doing videos, and we started the daily vlog, and we started hanging out with the GFuel guys. And at that point, it seemed like a good idea to be like, yo, Goon Squad homies, all the people we are playing with online. You know what would be a really cool idea, because we have this big fucking house and plenty of room? Why don't we take all of you guys and add you to our TK house, and now we'll have esports players and content creators all in the same house. And what better way to celebrate this and capture all of the fucking craziness that's gonna happen? I'm gonna start a daily vlog. Now you guys kind of know everything from this point on because I've got my vlog channel. We vlogged an entire year straight at the TKGFuelHouse in New York, and I did like a couple months here because eventually we moved to Atlanta, and that's where we are now. We're getting kicked out. We got to move to another house because the HOA are fucking assholes and all have tiny dicks. But no, this has been my Draw My Life video. So you guys have kind of seen myself just bounce around, you know, America, you know, moving between Texas and then going up to North Carolina and then moving all the way over to Australia and kind of doing that jazz and then coming all the way back to New York. Then I moved to Oklahoma in the middle of nowhere, moved back to North Carolina, kind of failed there at a miserable time delivering pizza. We'll just draw a little pizza because it's easy to draw. Then I moved to Atlanta, and that's really where everything started. That's where TK started. That's where SCUF started. That's where my YouTube career started. Sorry, I'm drawing all messed up. And although it might seem from this video that I kind of just said I got all of this stuff from hard work and the friends I made and the relationships I kept and the people I invested in, because I invested in a lot of people, a lot like my mentors being Jimmy, Scotty, and Cliff up here. Sorry, I kind of checked to see if they were still in frame. Took their lessons of kind of like being generous and investing in people and kind of paid it forward. So down to all my TKGFuelHouse homies and all the Goon Squad. And I'm hoping eventually that they do the same thing. And I'm hoping that once all this happens and once we find all the right people to do it with, and these are being esports teams, is probably the next step where we're going to pick up a bunch of esports teams and start investing in those people's careers, because I think we've got YouTube on lock. I think, you know, we're not, obviously we could all be doing better and we all hope to grow, but I think our relationships and our group is good. Like, I think we have a solid bunch of homies here at TK to head up our content creation and just have the great people to live with and do good content with. The next thing's the esports thing, and eventually this will all just lead to Team Kaliber being the most amazingly huge gaming brand ever to exist and take over everything and dominate the entire space and have the best fan base and everything else, and just totally take over the world, which will be awesome. And that's pretty much the end of my little Draw My Life video. So yeah, the goal is to take over the world, make sure all my homies eat really good, and then grow this little community we like to call TK. And a lot of it started with and grew with and hopefully will never end with my YouTube channel that just hit 1 million subscribers. And that's why you've gotten this video right here today. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. I'm gonna go ahead and end this video because I know it took me forever to kind of draw my life, and I do apologize for my terrible drawings. I thought it was kind of funny. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't worry, a whole lot of more content's coming. I'm gonna be doing all these funny IRL videos, the try not to laughs, and never have I ever's, all that stuff's coming back. I'm gonna be making a whole lot more gaming content on MWR and Call of Duty and all the other games I make. I'm gonna be uploading all kinds of funny moment montages from our streams. Like, this channel is about to explode with all kinds of content. And while all that's happening, I'm gonna be over here on my vlogging channel capturing it and recording it and putting it up on the internet for everyone to see, thus completing the picture. Hope you guys enjoyed my Draw My Life video. Please leave a like if you guys did. Thank you guys so much for supporting me over the years to get to 1 million. You guys are the homies.